What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. On today's episode, we're going to go over some of my takeaways from last night's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then it's Sunday, so you know the main focus is going to be the mailbag. We're going to hop into the mailbag today, also to answer some of your questions and voicemails. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So we are back in the building. And so unfortunately, it's after a loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers, a blowout loss at home, losing by 32 points. This was not a pretty game at all from the Chicago Bulls, but there are some takeaways from it, mostly negative, but there are some positive takeaways we could take away from it as well. And that first one is just Zach LaVine looked good out there. And not just because of the output. Yes, of course, he did score over 20 points per game, but not just because of that, 20 points per game, 20 points in that game. But not just because of the output and what he was able to score, mostly just how he was moving around the court. He was 9 for 17 from the field. He had 3 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals. He was moving. And with a lot of Bulls fans questioning like what's really going on with Zach's knee, even some Bulls fans thinking that, hey, it is something more serious. They're just not telling us. I think that went a long way in his play just to show that, hey, no, Zach is still Zach. He needs to get some of that shooting better, especially from the three-point range. He was 2 for 6 from there, but we need a little bit better output from him overall there. But that is definitely a takeaway that I walk away from this game coming into it, not really knowing how Zach was going to look, not knowing what to expect from him and his up and down play in preseason. And Zach LaVine looked really good, especially in that first quarter. It seemed like in that first quarter, Zach LaVine was coming in and he wanted to prove a point of, hey, no, I'm healthy. Just in case you guys are worried, no, I'm here. But, you know, for some people that have said after the game, like, oh, you know, it seemed like Zach LaVine being back stagnated some things or messed up the chemistry. No, that was not the case. This was just a night in which the team just overall played bad. DeMar DeRozan as well just played. DeMar had a bad game. Let's just be clear there. DeMar had a bad game. And even though we're used to DeMar being the most consistent Bull, it just wasn't a good game from DeMar. Vooch played solid. Vooch 7 for 12 from the field, 2 for 3 from three-point range. I need to see him rebound better, especially in matchups like this against front courts. But overall, Vooch played solidly. It was really just Vooch and LaVine were the most consistent players. Ayo kind of up and down in his time as well. Almost everybody else was up and down. Passive P made his return. He actually only played 16 minutes, only 11 meaningful minutes in this game. And I think this all but has now shored up, which is the next takeaway, is that Javonte Green is now our starting power forward. Even though Javonte hasn't played the best, even this game was not an overall good game from Javonte, but Javonte made some energy plays. He did some things that were just having those wow moments. Javonte Green flies. Like, let's just let's start those rumors now. Javonte Green is the first known and documented superhero in the world because that man flies. And it's not just how high he jumps. It's the quickness in the lift. Like, he literally he just jumps. Next thing you know, he's up. But I do think in this game that we've now seen Patrick Williams is done as the starting power forward for now. He's going to have to earn that position back. And even though Javonte Green has not played the best either, I think just Javonte's energy out there, the effort for sure, has now sealed him in for that starting spot, in my opinion. And again, I still believe in the potential of Patrick Williams. Again, like, that ceiling drops lower and lower every year that goes by and on just how good he can be overall. But Patrick Williams needs to wake up and first assert yourself on the defensive end. But we'll talk about that. We actually have a voicemail on that. But I do think Javonte Green is now the starting power forward. Now, to some Bulls fans, understandable and right, I do agree with this one. The thinking is that the Bulls probably need to go out and get another power forward. That you can trust, a veteran power forward that is a true power forward that you can kind of trust, even if that output is just defensively, even if the output is just a consistent 8 points per game with solid defense and some questionable shooting. Like, whatever it is, it's almost somebody that you can bet on. We have a voicemail on that too that I'm going to get into, but I would not be surprised, as we have now 3 more games until we get to that spot where we can cut Tony Bradley and sign a veteran at the veteran minimum without going into the luxury tax. That's looking more and more likely as a move that the Bulls are going to do, as this power forward position overall just has not been giving us great output. Like I said, Javonte's energy, and especially like when you look at the things, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, that's energy plays. He only chipped in 6 points. He was 2 for 5 shooting, but outside of that, he made energetic plays. When you flip that with Patrick Williams on the non-scoring things, Pat also scored 6 points, but non-scoring, he gave us 3 rebounds, 0 assists, 1 steal, 0 blocks, 1 turnover, and 1 personal foul in 16 minutes. So I do think that's what we're going to start seeing as far as like moving on. And the Bulls may very well decide to go forth in 3 more games, which would be the end of next week. Make that move, and we'll see what they end up doing. But do not be surprised. As much as I don't think the Bulls are going to make a major trade or move this offseason, that may be one that the writing's already on the wall for, that we may see another veteran coming here and Tony Bradley on his way out. Don't be surprised from it. I know some Bulls fans also are of the mindset, let's at least take a look at Marco. Let's take a look at Derrick Jones Jr., who we did get to see some in this game. He actually played 17 minutes in this game with 8 points. He was way more effective than what I was thinking he was going to be. He was 2 for 3 from the field, 1 for 1 from the three-point range. He had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Derrick Jones, we may see, which could be crazy, that it moved to Javonte Green and Derrick Jones Jr. at the power forward position with Patrick Williams kind of just getting spot minutes. He needs to wake up. He needs to wake up. And actually, over on the members only video for today, if you guys are listening, this isn't a plug to just sign, but members only video for today that's going to drop is going to be strictly about Patrick Williams and Passive P as a whole and why it is so concerning. So we'll get into that. But so that's kind of my takeouts. And then the last takeaway from this game is that the full 5-on-5 substitutions may be dead, right? It may be dead. While I did think like we had a true bench mob, and we still do, right? Overall, we still are going to have a way better bench than what we had last season. I'm looking at maybe that five swap in and out thing that we thought that we may have. It may not be. What we saw is that once all 3 of our big 3 and Vooch, DeMar, and Zach LaVine were off the court, everything just dropped down. We were only down by 2 points, and the lead grew heavily when we didn't have one of those 3 off. So, and one may say too that you should always leave one of your stars out there, but me and I think some other Bulls fans were thinking that we could have that true bench mob type swapping that Tibbs used to do, where he brought in all 5 bench players and they were able to maintain and increase some leads and erase some deficits. I think when you see the energy, and again, this is a weird game anyway. It's a 1-game sample size of us having our full roster minus Lonzo, of course. But maybe those 5-on-5 substitutions that I thought that we may go into may not be what we see. And we may see a stagger lineup where you still have one of Vooch, one of DeMar, or one of Zach LaVine out there. One could say as well, maybe with putting Patrick Williams on the bench, you play more things through him. Maybe we can get that back. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. But all right, it's a weekend, so it has to be a mailbag episode. We're going to get into this first voicemail. This one's from Fred.
What's up, hey? This your boy Fred calling for Walker, Louisiana. I got a few questions for you, man. Do you think the Bulls should go out and get Carmelo Anthony because of the lack of playing at the power forward position? And besides, I think the Bulls are going to have a really good season. We might start off a little rough, but I think Billy Donovan is doing a hell of a coaching. So, and on top of that, I think Patrick Williams will come out of his shell. It was like 5 games the last time, and he got hurt against New York. But I think, it'll probably be 5-6 games into the season that he'll come out of his shell. That's all I got for you, my man.
All right, so this is what I alluded to. Bulls going after Melo because of the lack of production at the power forward position. At this point, unless they got something else up their sleeves, I absolutely think this could be the move. Why I have said previously before that this is something that they could do. This is something that could work or they may pursue. At this point now, I'm in the mindset that this is something that the Bulls absolutely need to do. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people still believe in Tony Bradley's potential, and it's still some there. I will say that. But Tony Bradley is not going to get the minutes on this team. He's just not. It's not going to happen no matter what happens. Andre Drummond is now fully our backup center, period. Like, there's no minutes there for Tony Bradley. And Tony Bradley can't really play the 4 next to any of the other lineups out there. So as much as some Bulls fans do still see the potential in Tony Bradley, I think that now this is a must for them to cut Tony Bradley when they can and to bring in a veteran. They may too wait long term. They may wait until the buyout market. Why use that position now if the buyout market is going to be something that, you could get a better player depending on how things work out. But at this point, I think that you kind of have to make that move and just deal with it. And, if somebody at the buyout market comes available, I don't know, figure it out. Because at this point, the lack of production from the power forward position overall, right? Outside of those energy plays from Javonte in the last game, overall, first 3 games of the season, the power forward position is probably the only F as an overall position for the Chicago Bulls. And I do think when you look at Carmelo, yes, he's not a defensive player. Yes, you're going to have to, and maybe being out there with Drummond and making sure you have other defenders and like Ayo Caruso out there with him, you can offset that defensive liability some. But I think what Carmelo brings rebounding and scoring wise alone, and he's still a solid passer, Melo would be perfect fit for the Chicago Bulls team. And I honestly think if we were to cut Tony Bradley and sign Carmelo, there is not a world there is a world in which he may end up starting for us. Like, that's how much I think what we're lacking at that power forward position. Just imagine, look at the games that the Bulls have been in so far. Yes, the Cleveland game ended up being a blowout, but look, if you had a solid 13 points that you can guarantee and maybe even more from that power forward position, we're at least 2-1 in that case, right? When some could say that we're probably 2-1 anyway if that foul was called at the end of game 2. But I do think that when you have a position that's giving you such a net zero, and again, only 3 games of the season, they have now a couple of days to practice only 1 day to practice before we face Boston. But if that power forward position continues to be a complete and utter fail for you from now into that 6th game when you can cut Tony Bradley, you have to look at, like, listen, Tony Bradley's not going to play. Bring in somebody else who could fit into your rotation, even strengthen that bench even more. Yeah, it's going to make it jumbled. It's going to make it interesting how you work out minutes. I know some people are saying, hey, bring in the kid Dalen Terry, who only played 4 minutes. But I think what we've seen is that because this team is competing, the minutes for Dalen Terry may not be there unless there's some injury. Just may not be there. So bringing another veteran in that case, in my opinion, that's what I think. And at this point, I think it's a must that the Bulls do something like that. But let me know what you guys think on that one down below. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Marvin.
What's going on, guys? Marvin. Just chiming in after the 2nd game, right before this game tonight. Just wanted to give out a couple of numbers. Guys, if we think about it, going into Miami that first game, I don't know how many of us had us winning that game. We win it. We go into Washington, we lose that. So in my eyes, because I had them basically at 1-1, I think we did pretty well on the road trip. Now, the whole key of it is playing well. The difference is Ayo. We get a great game in the first game, mediocre game in the second. But I just want to address the issue, as many of you have already did. Goran Dragic and Andrew Drummond are keys to the Bulls' success this year, guys. Small sample size. If you look at the importance of each one of the players in Vooch, DeMar, Goran Dragic, and Drummond, and I know it's early, the PERs would tell how important they are to this offense. Vooch at 32.51, DeMar at 45.80. That's very high. I know it's early, guys. Dragic at 20.7 and Drummond at 25.2. Getting those guys acclimated and key. Remember, we didn't have Zach, guys. The key to this thing is because we see the glaring holes in Caruso when Zach is not there. Getting Zach back, sending Caruso to the bench is huge for this team. He gets a chance to be real, tough on defense with the second unit, and Zach can bring that scoring punch. I think Billy needs to try to, if we're not going to get anything from Pat and Javonte Green, I think we need to incorporate DJJ back into the lineup. Early in the season, guys, I think we'd be okay, though, guys. Look at the production off the bench and the 2 guys in Ports and Zach coming back. I think we'll be all right later.
Dragic and Drummond being keys to the Bulls' success is something that I want to focus on in this last voicemail. Absolutely. Like, when you look at the way that they're able to go about their business, and even though neither one had a great game last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers, when you look at when the Bulls are playing well and just what they bring as stabilizing factors for the Chicago Bulls, the fact that in Vooch's minutes off the court, you have another competent center that, albeit is a different center, a very different center, but is one that still you can bet on to give you production. And keep in mind, too, they still have not utilized Andre Drummond in the pick and roll the best, right? To what we've seen for his career. He is a great pick and roll player as the roll guy. And we haven't seen very much of that, as much as I thought we'd see early in the season. So, yeah, Dragic and Drummond are going to be hugely important for the Bulls' success. Now, Ayo's production, right? Ayo had a really good game that first game, and has had some questionable games. The defense has been pretty consistent throughout. But I think what we're seeing with Ayo Dosunmu, too, is like it's going to take some time to work into that role, even though he was our starting point guard to end the season last year. But Ayo's being asked to do a lot now. Like, it's not just you're filling in for Lonzo and we got everything else going. With the way that this team is now running their offense and hopefully getting back to being more motion heavy, he's going to have a bigger role in that. Like, Ayo's production is going to be key for the Chicago Bulls, but that production also has to be consistent. And we've seen one good game, a so-so game, and a bad game. But the bad game that we had from Ayo is, I'm not going to hold too much against him because we had a bad team game as well. That game was bad for us as a team as a whole. So Ayo's production is going to be hugely key for the Bulls too, but that efficiency off the bench, moving from a bench that didn't give you much to efficient bench play, a bench that you can guarantee is going to get you some points too, is going to be key for the Bulls. We got to get Kobe consistent as well. Kobe 2 for 8 in this last game. We got to improve that. If Kobe's consistent, it completely changes the dynamic as well. And to the last point, Derrick Jones Jr. back into the lineup. What we saw at this game, and there was some effect in it, and what we've seen with Billy Donovan is that if you are good in the minutes that you get and you show something, again, him giving us 8 points in 17 minutes, as well as 2 rebounds and 2 steals, I do think now that Derrick Jones Jr., that case, even though I didn't think it would happen initially, I think that case has been made, sold, and everything else. Derrick Jones Jr. is probably going to be in the lineup, especially while Patrick Williams is not playing well at all. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Ace.
What's up, Hayes? This is Ace calling in. Man, last time I called in, I was talking about DeMar DeRozan playing a little bit angrier and a little bit more aggressive against his friends, and he showed out against that Miami game, so I was really, really happy to see that. You know, bench stepped up too, so that was a good thing. I just watched this last game yesterday, and I saw the first game, of course. I was just talking about that, and man, Patrick Williams, that dude's softer than a baby white, man. I don't know how else to put him. He's mentally soft. Not physically. I don't understand how you can go from the last preseason game, going through the lane, just dunking on everybody 3 times in a row, to not trying to do that in the regular season. I don't get what's with this dude mentally. So in my opinion, he's just mentally soft. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Only thing I think that's gonna fix that, his teammates got to get in his ass. Like they come out. It may take somebody in that locker room to say, man, you playing like a bitch. I'm sorry. I mean, it may just come to that. But hell, that's what it sounds like it's gonna lead to. With that being said, man, I watched the show. I agree with you on Caruso not being a starter. He's great off the bench, but he's not a starter. Let me know, get your thoughts on that, man. I'll let y'all later. All right.
I'm glad that you woke up on the DeMar not playing tough thing. You know, it kind of is what it is there. Now, P. Will being mentally soft, passive P is a problem. Period. Passive P is a problem. Is going to continue to be a problem until he realizes it. The thing is, like, you had an offseason with DeMar, in which he talked about just how much you had to work. Like that, and I understand Bulls fans giving up on P. Will at this point. Like, this was that offseason with DeMar, going out and training with DeMar for a lot of people was the last thing that. Listen, if he isn't efficient after this, we're off the bandwagon. And I'm not saying that, like I said before, everybody grows differently. And like I said, more importantly than any of us is AK believes in P. Will still. It's just, it's taking longer to develop. And I don't know how much longer they're going to bet on that. I keep saying that, hey, he's going to get a second contract and he will, right? But P. Will has to wake up, man. The timidness from P. Will is the biggest thing. Like, I don't care about the off. Like, I want to see you go out there and give it to us defensively, if nothing else, man. Give us the defense, fam. And the fact that has not happened yet is more concerning. Like, P. Will was more aggressive defensively his rookie season. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. I'm not in that man's head. I'm not in that man's heart. I can't say what's going on there, but something's going on, and they need to figure it the hell out. They need to figure it the hell out. Because if P. Will continues to be this passive, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. And he is going to get ate alive by Bulls Nation with this continued play, man. But let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from JT. It's also about P. Will.
Hey, what's up, Hayes? This is JT. Big supporter of the show. I love what you're doing. So I just wanted to give my thoughts. And I've left a voice message before. This is about Patrick Williams. So it's a lot of people probably on the fence saying, oh, he a bust, and oh, he probably ain't got the dog in him. So here's my take on it. And I saw your video. I didn't watch it yet, but I saw like the title of How Can We Fix Passive Pat. I think that it's very simple. I think that it comes down to, I mean, you could say it's the mentality, but I don't even really want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to over-exaggerate, like, oh, he being passive. Yes, we see that. But I think it comes down to is the Bulls have to make him, like, the first priority option as far as on offense. They have to, like, I'm talking about first play of the game, run, like, 2-3 sets to him for him. Because we know DeMar can get his shot off at any time. We know Zach can get his shot off any time. I know he's saying, like, oh, he on many nights he's going to be, like, the third or fourth option. The only way, at this point, I think you're going to get the best out of him is if you tell him, look, you got to take at least 5 to 8 shots in the first quarter. And, and then him being aggressive. Because, like, if you look at his rookie year, even though it was kind of up and down, he had more opportunities. Now, obviously, because DeMar is on the team and you got Zach and Vooch, you could say it dwindles down. But, I mean, we already know what DeMar could do. I think that, and another thing is they using Pat as a screener a lot. I know he played power forward, but I just feel like he's way more effective if he's like a wing, used as a wing type player. Slashing to the basket, drawing fouls. We saw like him get to the line last night one time, but that was one time. We saw him beat his man off the dribble. Like, Patrick is super talented. He could handle the ball. He could get his own shot off. And I think that a lot of those traits that he has, like, star talent that could develop in a superstar talent.
All right, JT. And he makes the point that a lot of people are making is P. Will being more of a priority on the offensive end. Now, you say get 5, like, for a player that's only averaged 7 shots per game for their career, it's going to be difficult to get 5 shots in a quarter. But even with that being said, like, I've always been of the mind that shit is earned. You have to earn that minutes. You have to earn that. And if you're only getting 7 shots per game and those are timid shots, what's to say that anything's going to change with a more aggressive? Like, yeah, P. Will, when he's had the ball in his hands, has looked better historically. But it's like, do you really want to bet that on a team that's trying to compete? Right? We're not a rebuilding team. If we're a rebuilding team, absolutely, you give P. Will as many shots as possible, but we're not. And we can't keep betting on that. Like, it's going to, like, P. Will has to want it. Regardless if he's starting, regardless if he's coming off the bench, P. Will has to want it. And as we're seeing right now, he doesn't want it. I'm sorry. Like, again, this isn't me saying that I'm over P. Will as a whole, or as some fans, we need to trade him today. No, I'm not saying that. But he has to want it, and until he does, we can be talking about it all day. We can see it for him all day. P. Will has to see it, and he has not as of yet. And it's more and more evident every game that goes by. It's like he gets more passive, more timid. Passive P has to go. I don't know what it is, man. Y'all got to take him to a sports therapist and psychologist and something, and he got to lay on somebody's couch. And he got to take a moment to really dig deep on what the hell is going on with him, man. Yes, he was a bench player in college. We all know this. Yes, all those things are true. But P. Will has to wake up. He has to. Or you can either make this team or you can not make this team. If you get that reference, I love you. But P. Will got to wake up, man. He got to wake up. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for today. This one's for 8 Lives.
What's up, Hayes? I'm calling in on my second, my second opinion. First of all, I want to grab a hot take real quick and say that within these first 10 games, I'm predicting that Ayo is going to score between 25 and 30 points. I mean, it's obvious. I used to watch Ayo in Illinois because we hadn't had no decent guards in Illinois since Darren Williams and D. Brown. And I didn't know who he was. I just kept seeing the dude with dreads, him in the center. They also had a decent center that year. And he was doing a lot of alley-oops. Ayo was doing the same thing that he was doing in Illinois. Just this summer, he just gained that weight because when he came in last year, he was trying to do the same thing that he was doing with Illinois, but he was just too little. You know what I'm saying? Now he gained weight, and now that he know he has the green light, it's no doubt in my mind that this boy is ready to take over the team, whether Zach's there or not. When I say take over, not be the best player because he didn't have a big ego like that, but he's going to definitely, he already done this. This is what he done. This is normal for him. He was supposed to be a number one. He was supposed to be in the first round draft pick. We caught a blessing with him just like we did with Rose. We weren't supposed to get that Rose on that first draft because the Bulls never get the first draft. But to get Ayo in the second round, I could not believe that. And that's why his mentality is different from Patrick, because he always been, this is what he's done in Illinois. Patrick came off the bench. He's not going to look like a starter, even though we have seen he got, like you said, I heard you say it, we know he got the slashes, the shots, and the dominance play. I want to see him just play defense and just take over like that and let his offense come in, just like you said. That's what we need him for. That's what he do. He's not a flashy Vince Carter Duncan. You know, he don't have that mentality.
All right, Ayo, P. Will, Kobe. These are the things that he basically touched on in this voicemail. First one, Ayo. Ayo has shown progression, right? I do like Ayo's, he's stronger, and that's evident out there on the court. I do think even when you look at him being a starter that played 28 minutes, but only having a negative plus minus of -5, whereas players with bigger offensive output, like Zach, was still -19, it shows that Ayo is doing some things out there defensively that are in his matchups that he is winning. I do think that we are going to need Ayo to shoot better, period. This is now a team, especially now that we know Lonzo ain't walking through that door anytime soon. We need P. Will shooting to be a little bit better. We need him to be better, and we need it to be better. But Ayo also gives you so much other things, and I think sometimes he gets a pass from Bulls fans, and he's earned that, right? Because Ayo's come in as a second-round pick and shown that he's going to be a bright part of the Chicago Bulls' future. But we do need you to shoot better out there. We need you to take more shots at times. We need you and the coaching staff to empower him a little bit more, especially games like last night when DeMar just doesn't have it. We need Ayo to step up. In the first game of the season, we didn't have Zach LaVine. Ayo stepped up and took on a lot of that missing scoring load. We need to see Ayo shooting come around a little bit more so other teams have to respect him out there. But what Ayo does on the other side of the ball, the defensive end, I think we're always going to know he's giving effort out there. And if you watch basketball, he may not always get the steals in the box to show up in the stat sheet, but when you watch the basketball game that Ayo is playing, it's always going to be good defensively. P. Will, Passive P, listen, I think throughout this episode, I've given my evaluation on Passive P so far. I don't really want to belabor it or seem like I'm picking on the kid, so I'm going to kind of just default to my things earlier in the episode. And as far as Kobe, I will say this, right? Kobe has shown improvement in a lot of areas. The shooting still has not been consistent. It's still been up and down game to game. Yeah, he's had halves where it's much better, things like that. It's been up and down, but for the first time, Kobe is starting to give you things with his court vision, with passing, with effort on the defensive end, especially off the ball, to where he is giving us more when his shot isn't falling than what he did ever in his career. But what I will say is this, is that as we still are trying to figure out these rotations and lineups, he is a threat to lose minutes, whether it be to Gorn, whether it be to maybe Dalen Terry at some point, whether it be, especially once Lonzo comes back. Kobe is a threat to lose minutes, and we need Kobe's efficiently as well off the bench. We came into the season, one of the questions that I asked in this offseason was, who takes the leap? Is it going to be Ayo, P. Will, or Kobe? Those are the players that you're looking at taking a leap possibly this season. And so far, none of them have. Ayo showed it in the first game. P. Will showed it some in second halves of game 1 and 2. P. Will, not at all really. But we still need one of these players to step up in a major way. Hopefully 2 out of 3 of those players, if Ayo in the starting lineup and Kobe in the bench, really take a leap, right? And give us some consistent play, which, like I said, the consistent play thing is more geared towards Kobe than Ayo. But if they do those things, you're looking at a team that, of course, increases their stock. Yes, the development of these 3 players in this season is going to be key to the success this season. We'll see what it means for Kobe over the course of his career and if he's still a Bull after this season. But at the end of the day, it's just we need these players to kick in. We need them. When you look at what each one of those players bring, they bring a key thing to the Chicago Bulls that we do need if they are ready to go and they're taking it. They have to take it. They have to take it, in my opinion. This game sucked. Mailbag was good. Thank you guys for all the voicemails and everything. But listen, it's gonna be tough, man. We play Boston Monday. That game, I don't even know how to predict. We don't know what Bulls team is gonna show up. Maybe getting this ass kicking at home wakes them the hell up. I hope that it does, because if it does, then maybe we can have a better showing against Boston. We can't have another blowout at home. Like, the Bulls can't be blown out again at home, right? Like, we can't do that. Like, Boston is a team. Don't get me wrong, but please don't get blown out at home again against Boston. But that is it for me for today, guys. You guys know I'll be back tomorrow with the daily episode. If you want to follow the show, make sure you do so at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail, like you heard on today's episode, the number to do so is 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode on, see red, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.